Hey everyone, it's Rajiv and welcome to my channel Rajiv's Reviews. In this video, I'm going to be giving my book review of the science fiction alien abduction middle grade novel called The Owls Have Come to Take Us Away by Ronald L. Smith. The story revolves around 12-year-old Simon, who is obsessed with aliens. You know, the ones who come and abduct people and do experiments on them. He is fascinated and terrified about aliens, and he has a lot of knowledge and trivia about all the UFO sightings and alien abductions that have happened in the last few years. And he thinks about them so much that he cannot even sleep at night. One day, Simon goes on a camping trip with his parents, and something strange happens where he starts to suspect that he's been abducted. But is whatever that's happening to Simon actually real, or is it all in just his imagination? Now, I picked up this book because I really liked the concept and the synopsis of the story. It sounds very interesting, doesn't it? Where it's a science fiction alien abduction story, but it also has a middle grade flair to it. When I started reading this book, I also liked the character of Simon and the fascination that he has towards aliens and how he provides these interesting snippets about UFO sightings and alien abductions and other related incidents that have happened in the last few decades. The story is also written in this very dark and creepy manner, which reminded me of the old episodes of The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits. I mean, it is so atmospheric at times that I actually felt like I was reading a Stephen King novel. The author also keeps the reader guessing as to whether Simon's encounters are actually real or whether he is just imagining the whole thing. So I thought the story had a lot of potential to it to make it a great book, but there were just so many aspects that made it so difficult to enjoy it. The first and main problem that I had with this book is the concept of a story within a story. Now, while we read about what is going on in Simon's life, Simon also starts narrating his own fantasy story, which is described in alternate chapters, which is completely unrelated to what is happening in Simon's life. There were times when I thought that Simon's fantasy novel that he narrates is more interesting than what is going on in his life. It was so unnecessary and confusing to shift between the two stories from chapter to chapter. The fantasy novel that Simon narrates is not at all related to what is going on in his life. So I really don't understand why the author had to include that in the novel in the first place. The author could have actually released the narrated fantasy novel as a separate book because that also had a lot of potential. My second complaint about this book is in the way that it ended. The story is somewhat consistent in terms of pacing for the most of the book, but it takes a complete nosedive at the end. So like I said before, the story keeps making the reader guess as to whether Simon is actually imagining these events or whether it's actually happening to him, which is good for the most part, but the story just ends in a cliffhanger, and the epilogue following it tries to provide some kind of closure in just 2 pages for a build-up of the whole story, which is around 250 pages. I really dislike such books where the author tries to wrap up everything in just 1 or 2 pages in the end in a hurry for whatever reason that it may be. And lastly, I had a problem with Simon's interactions with his family and his friends. We really don't get any closure or any details for any of the supporting characters in the story. Simon has issues with his father, but there's really no closure provided for it. Simon's friends, Tony and Miranda, are interesting at times, but again, they only appear for a few scenes and we really don't get to know anything about them. It felt like all the supporting characters just made random appearances here and there in the book and they just disappeared altogether. So overall, I would have to say that The Owls Have Come to Take Us Away was a very disappointing read, and I would give it a rating of only 2 out of 5 stars. If you enjoyed this video, then please do like and subscribe to my channel. You can also click on the bell notifications icon to get notifications on whenever I post something new. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!